There is an old saying that one should not judge another unless you have walked a mile in their shoes. I'm not sure where that statement originated, yet I believe all of us here today can identify with it. Those individuals who know us the best, or who we know the best, are the people who have walked in similar paths as we have. Except there is one thing that all of us knows about and have even experienced. Each of us has been there before, and in many cases, in similar kinds of ways. That one thing we have in common is sin. All of us have tasted it. And even though some of us try very hard, we'll probably taste it again. It's part of our human nature. In the first part of today's gospel reading, the steps to follow to live a sin-free life seem very straightforward and clear-cut. Maybe even those are the steps or marching orders for whoever wants to be part of the sin police. And for many of us who may be habitual sinners, it may seem hopeless, as if there is no way out of the muddy waters we may find ourselves swimming in sometimes. But the end of the gospel reading has some immense healing powers for us to focus on today. Jesus knows that in order for us to travel this journey of life, we need each other. Maybe that's why St. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, in today's second reading, states that all the commandments fall after the commandment to love your neighbor as yourself. We have heard that exact saying from Jesus himself when one of the scribes questioned Jesus about which is the greatest commandment in Matthew 22. When Jesus is questioned, he replies, "You should love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The second is just like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two, all the commandments, laws, and prophets hinge." You see, the way I'm forced to understand this is that if we call ourselves Catholics, which means universal, then everyone else is our brothers and sisters. That includes non-Catholics, non-believers, sinners, everyone else in the world. Jesus clearly explained this in the parable of the Good Samaritan, which we have all heard before. Jesus knows exactly what we do to each other and what we do to ourselves. He also knows we need to heal and restore relationships in others in order to be all in God's healthy, spiritually loving family. I think most of us hate confrontation. When we see wrongdoing in our world, we just turn our head and pretend it's not happening. I think this is very true in the United States and in most of the modern developed world. I believe this happened throughout history, and if one was to take an honest look back through time, in the cases of wrongdoing, we all like to sweep issues underneath the rug. That has been true with the Holocaust, the abortion issue, the new U.S. immigration stance. It is throughout human history and can be traced back to the story of Cain and Abel in the book of Genesis. That is where the very end of our gospel has a challenge for each of us today. Jesus is telling us that we have to do some cleanup and to take care of in our own lives. My gut instinct, and maybe yours, is that we look to everyone else, because Jesus cannot be talking about me. He must mean there's someone else, someone who has done much more or worse than me. Or maybe it's those people who are not here today, or who do not go to any place of worship. They have cleanup to do. You and I would like to say to ourselves, that's got to be it. It can't be me. But if I generally take those last words of the gospel to heart and let them form the way of thinking, I would feel differently. Jesus said, "For 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there in the midst of them." Think about that for a moment. Do you really think if Jesus would be focused on punishing me or any one of us who are here today, Jesus would be here, right here, in our midst, praying with us right now? Absolutely not. Jesus is concerned with our restoration and bringing us back to spiritual health and part of God's loving family. So for those of us who like to point out the sins of others, those of us who like to push things under the rug, or who are just running saying it's not me, we have to remember that we are all connected as brothers and sisters. We are all God's children and his beloved creation. And God doesn't make any mistakes. We all have a purpose and a reason. I don't know what your purpose is any more than I'm really sure of mine at this point, still trying to figure it out. But the beauty of it all is that God is with us every step of the way. We need to focus on that. We need to ask God daily what he needs us to do and then act on it. We need to listen carefully with our hearts and not just our heads. If we do this, then you and I will see all of God's beautiful creation and would feel the healing power of full reconciliation with each other. That's God's gift to us. Another gift is starting here on September 20th. It's the RCIA program. If you know anyone who is thinking about becoming a Catholic or needs to make one of the sacraments or all of the sacraments like confirmation, this is a great opportunity for them. So don't stick your heads in the sand and say, I don't know, it's not me. Invite them to join the program. The informational meeting is on the 20th at 7 p.m. The contact person is Jerry Peer, and the rest of his information is in today's bulletin. Thank you.
I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. I believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, born of the Father before all ages, God from God and light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made,